Hi people, welcome to the Run Testers, and in this video we're sizing up Altra's first ever low drop shoe. This is the Altra FWD Experience. It's a pretty big move from Altra to step away from their trademark zero drop or balanced cushioning as they call it. So has it worked? Well, watch on to find out in our Altra FWD Experience review. So let's start with some quick details then. The stack height is the headline here. The Altra FWD Experience packs 32 28mm stack in the men's and a 30 26mm stack in the women's for a 4mm drop overall. So it's Altra's first shoe that steps away from zero drop. Weight-wise, the FWD Experience come in at 8.9 ounces or 252 grams in our UK men's size 8.5 test size. So that's a shade lighter than Torin 7 and a good chunk lighter than something like the Altra Via Olympus. On price, the Altra FWD Experience comes in at £150 in the UK and $140 in the US. That's slightly cheaper than the Torin 7 in the US and sitting around the mid-range for daily trainers. Well, let's give you a really quick whip round of the shoe then. Well, this midsole uses a compression moulded EVA foam that's somewhere between semi-firm and semi-soft. So surprisingly, you don't get Altra's livelier Ego Max or Ego Pro foams here. And when we asked Altra why they didn't go for an Ego Max or an Ego Pro foam in the FWD Experience, they told us that it didn't quite align with the experience they were trying to create with this shoe. The forefoot base is nice and wide, and there's a pronounced rocker here to help with toe-offs. Up top, you've got an engineered mesh upper that's pretty thick, it's pretty dense. There's no overlays here. You've also got Altra's trademark toe box shaping. That's still here. That's been narrowed and it now looks much more like a traditional shoe than something like the Torin 7. The heel collars and tongues boast medium padding. There's no heel counter, but there are some extra pads on the inside here to hold the base of the heel and provide some extra fit security. When you flip them over, the outsole has a decent covering of outsole rubber, and you've also got Altra's Interflex groove system. These grooves here that follow the metatarsals and are designed to flex with your feet for a more natural ride.
So I found that the Altra FWD Experience fit a little bit tight for me. It's not really been a problem, and the width of the toe box helps on that front, but I do find that when I'm going down hills or running quick, my toes hit the front of the shoe a little bit. So I think it might be worth going a half size up in it potentially. The back of the shoe is quite interesting. It's really built up the way the cushioning works at the back there to hold your Achilles and heel in place very strictly. I was a bit worried about it because I've been having some Achilles issues with shoes rubbing in that area, but actually this was fine. It fit really nice and snugly, held the foot in place. Didn't irritate the Achilles or heel for me at all. So overall the fit was good around the back and midfoot, but I do think it's a little bit short, and there's a potential there to go half a size up to have a bit more room in the toe box.
So I ran in a UK 8.5 in the FWD Experience, and I found this fit was bang on really. I didn't really have any of the problems that Nick's mentioned about toes butting up against the end of the toe box. I felt there were plenty roomy enough, even though they come in Altra's slightly narrower standard size, and they're not quite as broad in terms of that sweep, that anatomical sweep. That has been narrowed a bit. I found there's plenty of room in the toe box. I found they held really well into the heel. Good lockdown fit across the top, plenty roomy enough, and I found it really comfortable. So for me, it was definitely true to size. So for my run test then, I've clocked around 30 miles in the FWD Experience, and that's the usual mix of paces, at least one 90-minute effort, mostly on roads, some river paths, light off roads, all that usual stuff. Now first up, I have to hold my hands up. In my first run video that I did a few weeks ago, I initially said this. So having had a bit of time to mull over that first run, my instinct here is that the FWD Experience is going to shape up as a solid, fairly versatile daily trainer. It's probably better at the lower pace ranges than the upper. But after more miles, I've changed my mind. If you like firmer shoes, I still think they're good for slower efforts, but they're at their best when you're moving faster and probably shorter. Now, if Altra set out to make a shoe with broader appeal, I think they've largely succeeded here. Close your eyes and you could be running in a Hoka, Clifton or such. That's not a criticism of Altra at all, it's more a compliment to Hoka. The Hokaization of running shoes has been happening across all the major brands, I think, in the past 5 years, and with good reason. I think the combination of higher stack of midsole foam, that sort of bucket seat fit, rockering, and lightweight breathable uppers, it really kind of works. And that's true here. The Altra FWD Experience is a surprisingly light and very capable, versatile daily trainer that's really easy to run in, I think, at a range of paces. Altra's roomier toe box is very much still a feature, even if it's not as roomy as some wider fit shoes in the Altra lineup. That airiness combined with a happy step-in comfort and cradling footbed, I think make this shoe one that you'll be happy to lace up for quite a few different types of run. Now on the run, the rockered firmer ride I think has a somewhat direct, old school performance sprightliness to it. though it's definitely not as lively as the super daily trainers, those ones that are packing the super critical foams like the Saucony Endorphin Speed, all those newer ones we've seen come out with plates. It would have been great to see Altra use its livelier Ego Max or Pro foams in this shoe just to offer a touch more bounce. The EVA midsole and footbed combination does provide just enough protection, but it's not as soft as cushioned as some of the likes of, those softer, easier daily trainers like the Asics Gel Nimbus 25. And that will definitely limit, I think, the Forward Experience's upper distance and time on feet for some runners, but not all runners. But if you're a fan of firmer, more direct shoes, there's a balanced stability and reliability underfoot that makes it great for cruising and disappearing comfort. Now, it can happily handle your recovery plods too, but as I said, I think it's best when you're pushing the tempo with faster foot turnover.
So I've not been a big user of Altra shoes in the past. The only one I have tested is the Altra Vanish carbon racing shoe. I don't tend to use zero drop shoes in general. I find they put a little bit too much strain on my calves. So I wasn't really sure what to expect from the Forward Experience in general, but with the specs I saw on the shoe and the 4mm drop and the rocker, looked a lot like a Hoka on paper, the Hoka Clifton in particular, and it does ride like that, but it's a little bit firmer, and I've really liked using it. I've certainly enjoyed using it a lot more than I expected. Like, I've used it for general training runs. I've done about 60k in it now for a mix of easy and steady stuff, lots of little progression runs. I think the longest I've gone up to is about 10 miles, and I found it comfortable. I find the rocker works really well for me, creates a very nice fluid ride, and that foam, which isn't very good, I'd say, it's fair to say, it feels a bit outdated, this compression molded EVA, but actually the lack of bounce and liveliness in the foam is taken away from me by the rocker, which just delivers that really smooth ride that I've got into sync with at really any pace. So mooching along for very easy recovery runs, the rocker feels comfortable, and I think it makes the shoe feel comfortable because I think this is quite a firm foam, and if you're not getting that rocking effect, it can be a little bit too firm, I think, for lots of people. And then at faster paces, again, turning the legs over feels right, nice and fluid in this shoe thanks to that rocker. Again, the foam's not giving you a load back, but it's also a good firm platform that you can use to run fast on, with the rocker really creating that smooth gait. So yeah, like I said, I've really enjoyed using it, done a mix of runs in it, and had no real concerns. Like, it's not an outstanding shoe, I'd say. It's not something that blew me away or anything like that, and I do think my enjoyment of it is very much dependent on that rocker working for me. So I think if it doesn't work for you, what you're left with is quite a dull, lifeless shoe, because this is not great foam, I think, even compared to some of the stuff like the Ego Pro in the Altra Vanish Carbon. This is a fairly standard EVA material, and you're not getting a nice sink-in, squishy feeling or loads of bounce or anything like that. It's just a stable, balanced platform, and then, like I say, the rocker really comes into play and makes a shoe feel good on a variety of runs. So if the rocker doesn't come into play for you, maybe it's the way around. I've got like a shuffling, heel striking style, and that seems to work with the rocker. If you don't get on with the rocker, it might not be that enjoyable a shoe. For me, it was, and I liked using it as a daily trainer for a mix of runs. It was just about comfortable enough for pure easy runs, whilst having a bit of versatility there if you want to move through the gears. Not all the way up to very fast running, I'd say, because there are certainly shoes that are either a bit lighter or a bit more lively with the foams involved, or even have plates in them to make them a bit better for the fast stuff. But the Forward Experience is a pretty versatile daily trainer, I'd say. It was a nice introduction to Altra's range. I think if you are interested in things like zero drop shoes, going down to a 4mm shoe like this might be a good stepping stone. Also, that I didn't really experience any kind of calf issues at all with this shoe, any kind of tightness, which I have had with zero drop shoes in the past. This 4mm and also the very pronounced rocker really makes it feel very different to a zero drop shoe. So yeah, that wasn't a concern at all for me, and it's probably makes it a good option for those who are maybe looking at transitioning to a zero drop shoe or just want a lower drop shoe in their rotation in general. So I enjoyed my running in the Altra Forward Experience. I think it's a nice option for those who like a low drop shoe with a rocker and a firmer ride. It does tick those boxes quite well, and that is a type of shoe that I do enjoy using myself quite a lot. Say the big comparison probably would be something like the Hoka Clifton 9, which has a similar setup all round, similar weights, similar stack height, similar drops. It's got not amazing foams either, the Hoka Clifton 9, but I do think it's got a slightly bouncier ride to it, and it's a little bit more comfortable as well all round. I think if I was looking for a training shoe that veered more towards comfort, the Clifton 9 would be the better option, while still being pretty versatile to do the faster stuff. If you like a firmer ride, a more grounded feel, and maybe you want to use a shoe for a few more speed workouts, then the Forward Experience I think has a little bit of the edge on the Clifton, but they do feel quite similar shoes all round to me. But I think if you're not desperate to get a foot-shaped toe box and a 4mm drop shoe, you can get more impressive shoes for less than the Altra Forward Experience. If you're just looking at the market at large and you don't mind going to a higher drop shoe, you can pick up a battalion of pretty good daily trainers around the £100 mark. But certainly I did enjoy using this shoe, and I know there'll be some long-term Altra fans out there who will say that it's going away from its guiding principles, the brand here, but I'd say for someone like me who's not got that kind of opinion of Altra, this was a more accessible shoe and a more enjoyable shoe to use because it hasn't got that zero drop. So maybe just opens up the brand brand to more people, which is probably what they've gone for here, and pretty successfully, I'd say. I do think in the future, if they want to really start competing with the best shoes on the market, we're going to need to see some more impressive foams in here, because, like I say, the enjoyment I have from the shoe all came from the rocker and the geometry of the shoe rather than the foam itself. So that's something they can maybe look at in the future. But overall, yeah, I did enjoy using the FWD Experience.
Verdict then, well, Altra's made a good shoe here. I would say good but not great. There's a lot to like, and I really enjoyed my miles in these shoes, but up against some pretty serious competition in this daily trainer space. They don't really do enough to top my personal favourites like the Speed 3, the Cloud Surfer 7, the Mach 5 and even the Triumph 21, I think. Now that said, if you've looked at Altra in the past but you've been put off because of the zero drop design, the Altra FWD Experience is a great shoe to try first in their range. It's going to be a good bridging shoe. I think that's what they're aiming for, and they've ticked that box. Likewise, if you've been longing for a Hoka Clifton with a wider toe box, this shoe could be an alternative. We'd love to have seen Altra go all out guns blazing with its first drop shoe, and you can't help but wonder why they didn't swap that compression moulded EVA for a lighter, more energetic supercritical midsole foam, particularly when it uses those foams in shoes with similar geometry. Now what that means is fans of bouncy, energetic daily trainers will likely find it a bit of an old-fashioned ride and perhaps a shade dull. Those who want sinky, squishy softness in their easy day shoes likely won't get enough cushioning here either, I don't think. However, if you like a light, responsive, firmer and more direct ride, the Altra FWD Experience offers that in spades. And for fans of that more traditional ride, I think this shoe offers good pace versatility tilted towards faster, shorter runs. And finally, I'm going to say it's also Altra's best looking shoe to date, though that's maybe because it looks a little bit less like an Altra. So there you have it. That's been our multi-test review of the new low drop Altra FWD Experience. We hope it's been useful. Don't forget to hit subscribe and ring the bell to make sure you get notified when other videos land on the channel. If you can subscribe, if you're not already, that really helps us. We would really appreciate your support. If you're interested in daily trainings, we've also got a rather excellent roundup I think you'll enjoy that's appearing on the channel right about now. Otherwise, it's been a pleasure to chat to you, and we hope to see you again soon on the run testers. Happy running, everyone.